how do we kind of get an understanding of that right out of the gate? And an easy one, and this one sounds okay. Well, my tires are stone cold. It's wet out, but yeah, I want to know before I get out on track whether there's a little bit of grip, zero grip. I just want to know. And I'll start off with, as I'm leaving hot pit, I want to see when the tires are going to break loose. Do I literally touch the accelerator and they just lights up? Or does it actually take a little bit for that to happen? And once you've done this a few times at a bunch of different tracks, you'll get a sense very quickly of kind of what that track has to offer. And this, again, I'll just use my experience as an example. Driving a heavy high horsepower car on 200 treadwear tires, I was actually surprised leaving Summit Point. There was a decent amount of grip, and I was using a wet setting, and I ended up changing into a dry setting during the session. But I was surprised that it took more throttle than I was used to. There was more grip out there than I thought. And yeah, I kind of want to know that just before I get out on track. So one of the tests that I have is just some light acceleration, leaving hot pit, and I want to see kind of when or if the tires break loose. So
Mhm.
yeah, kind of a good thing there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, just slight, yeah, building off that too, real quick story. I think it was John Andretti I was talking to one day, and when I race with his son Jarrett, I think John said once, he's like, I never understood how people spin out on corner exit. He's like, you just get out of the throttle. You don't need to, just get out of the power. And obviously, a bit extreme, right? But the point there being that you have the ability to make adjustments in real time to not spin, not lose traction. If you're getting wheel spin, you just pop out of the throttle a little bit and let the tires slowly come back and get grip. And it's the same thing for why we figure out where the grip is on power, corner exit, or just coming out of the pit lane, getting into power, because we can make that adjustment, make that change as soon as we feel the tires spinning up and losing traction. We can make that adjustment in real time. So, yeah, that's the best place to feel out grip by all means.
Yeah, so let's go a little bit deeper on that. And I love what Colin said, which is like, we're not saying like leave hot pit and just mat the thing and start banging gears and see what happens. No, we're saying, as you start to go in either first gear, second gear, whatever it is, you're slowly going to add some throttle
Mhm.
and let the thing build until you can feel if there's wheel spin, right? How much load will it take? And again, sometimes they'll break grip immediately, and other times you'll be surprised, like, oh, actually, this isn't too horrible. So yeah, how you're doing that is super important. So all right, so how do we sense the amount of grip starting out, like once we get out on track? And yeah, the first corner is, build some good straight up and down brake pressure to sense if the tires will lock up. And again, I want to know as soon as I can
Mhm.
what grip is, where grip is, how much grip is available. So as I approach the first corner, I might go to the brakes a little bit lightly, but then I'll actually build pretty good brake pressure just to see. And of course, I'll be ready if something happens, but I want to see if the tires will lock up. And if they do lock up, where do they lock up? Is it immediately? Is it take a lot of brake pressure, etc.? So yeah, first corner, I'm going to build some good brake pressure and see. And yes, I know the tires are cold, and yes, they may need some heat, but it still gives me a sense of how that opening lap is going to be. And I'll continue, I'll continue a good braking technique throughout those first laps, slowly building to apply more pressure at turn in. And that is also going to tell me a lot of what's going on. So I want to make sure that I want to take advantage of having some grip in the wet, squeezing the water out of the tires, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I want to make sure that I can get the weight transferred and at least start to get some braking into the corners and to help steer the car, more grip, etc. So yeah, slowly building to apply more brake pressure at turn in. So I need to make sure that I save some brake to be able to do that. And this also again tells us how much grip that we're going to have as we want to enter the corner. And a lot of times, where we see the biggest problems, yeah, typically the places we're going to see grip issues is at turn in or when we go to initial throttle.
Mhm.
All right. So some other things that we can work on is try adding additional steering input mid corner to see if the car responds. If it does, there's
Mhm.
more grip. I think this is a really big one.
Mhm.
And again, I want to know how much grip is available right out of the gate. So I'm going to pick corners where it's the radius is long enough or it's safe enough to where if I do have an issue, I can either catch it or if something else happens, I've got plenty of runoff.
Mhm.
But again, I want to know how much grip is available. So, maybe it's a lower speed corner, longer radius corner. But yeah, I will absolutely add some steering input fairly aggressively to see if the car responds. And if
Mhm.
it does, there's more grip. Now, am I getting is the front biting? Is the rear not? Does the front immediately push? Does the rear hook? There's so much information that you can get from that in such a short amount of time. So I mean, I want to be able to figure this out very, very quickly. So I'm gonna put myself in a position to make that happen. So yeah, try adding additional steering input mid corner. And again, if you get response, yeah, there's more grip. So how do we sense the amount of grip starting out? And the part of this other one is straighter in and straighter out. And Cole and you and I will talk about this a little bit because I think it's important. Is we want to really run our normal line until proven differently.
Mhm.
And I think that yes, I don't want to go, oh my gosh, it's raining out. I'm going to run the rain line, right? I'm gonna miss my apexes if if there's water bill. No, until proven differently. And
Mhm.
again, using Summit as a great example, we had some pretty good downpours and we had a gigantic puddle at the apex of 8. Well, no, I'm not going to apex 8 then if there's a gigantic puddle there.
Mhm.
Same thing with 6, right? Instead, I still had there was some water buildup around there. You could have run through it, but no, it made sense to not do that.
Mhm.
So I will run sort of my normal line and yes, straighter in and straighter out. Because if the wheel is straighter in, I can use more brake. If the wheel is straighter out, I can use more acceleration. So again, I'm going to do that until proven differently, meaning
Mhm.
that if there's no grip there, maybe there's mud there, whatever's happening, then I'll alter my lines. I'm not automatically going to go to a different line just because it's wet.
Mhm.
So I think that's I
Yeah.
think I think that's an important one. So Colin, we can chat about that
That's
one a little bit.
that's a super big one and one I wish I knew I wish I knew sooner, honestly. I remember my first couple of races in the rain, proper national series, and jumping in and going, all right, I'm going straight to the rain line, what I know,
Yep.
just rim around the track and get outside. And then when I see everyone else sticking on the dry line and oh, they're going faster than me here. That's weird. Let me try that out. And oh yeah, wait, there's actually a ton of grip on the normal line through like turn 3 Road America, on the old pavement. So it was all right. Hey, we're gonna make that work. And yeah, a lot of the time, I mean, we've already figured out the fastest way to go around a racetrack. If it was possible to do that in the wet, barring external conditions, we would do that. But like you mentioned, and kind of going back to the start as far as early things to watch out for, paint, sealant patches, and puddles, standing water. We want to avoid those because we're going to have way less grip across those surfaces if we can. Try to go where there is grip until proven otherwise. At the same time, there's going to be situations where you're going through the bus stop at Watkins Glen and you can't really avoid the dry line there. You kind of have to run where there's going to be less grip, or maybe touch some of the paint and just make sure you're pointed straight to deal with that lacking grip. Yeah, Jordan here says there tends to be puddling along the left side of the brake zone for turn 1, which creates super uneven
Yeah,
left
at
versus right
Summit.
grip.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
Summit Point, yeah.
yeah, at Summit. Yeah, Jordan.
Mm.
I'll make sure I'll tell the guy in the Audi RS3 that who spun there straight up because yes, he had thought, well, I got all-wheel drive and I got PS4s, right? I can just go my normal pace. Well, not really. So anyway, yeah,
Yeah, 100%. And then yeah, the straighter in, straighter out comment. I mean, we kind of turn most cars into point and shoot cars in the rain. And it's really interesting looking at the data, and with rain tires in general, we have proportionally more longitudinal grip than lateral compared to in the dry. So that difference that, you lose yeah, I'm making up these numbers, but just for the sake of example, you lose 30% longitudinal performance, but you lose 50% lateral,
Yeah.
is kind of what we're looking at. So, you're able to brake deeper than you may think relative to how good your car is in the turn, in the wet versus dry. So, yeah, there is actual benefit to the straighter in, straighter out mindset when driving in the rain compared to dry for sure, in terms of just dealing with grip. But yeah, 100%. We're going to run what's proven the fastest way around the track until we can't, until there is that lack of grip that's preventing us from doing so.
Yeah, and there's going to be some nuances, right? There's going to
Mhm.
be a corner
Absolutely.
where maybe it's something that the it's polished, right? The asphalt's polished, or there's just something where it's like, whoa,
Hmm.
that's not quite right. I'll
Hmm.
move over a couple of feet or whatever it might be. But a lot of times when you see, oh, run these rain lines, it's typically on a track that has a lot of use. Maybe
Hmm.
it's older for whatever reason. But yeah, some of the tracks that are new that have got a lot of grip,
Hmm.
or repaved, the lines are basically the same. So anyway.
Yeah, we'll never forget Mid Ohio pre-repave, with all the
Oh,
sealant there in the wet was an exciting place in the rain.
yeah, exactly.